4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon, Vanguards. We are here with a very special AMA this afternoon in which we've got two other guests joining us, Tim Benedict, our Chief Technology Officer, and Bryan Reinhart, which is our Chief Revenue Officer. You have not met him yet, so I'm very excited to introduce you to Bryan today. We're going to spend quite a bit of time today talking about how we're going to get our VITREUS product to the real world, our go-to-market strategy. So we're going to spend a little bit of time getting into the weeds on that. First of all, VITREUS is a digital ecosystem that is built for the real world. We're a pretty advanced blockchain ecosystem, and we're designed to serve the energy sector and the finance sector as well. So a little bit about my background. I have operated a registered investment advisor for 17 years. We've built this product specifically for registered investment advisors and helping them handle their compliance needs within the ever-changing regulatory landscape. So Tim Benedict is joining us here. You've heard plenty from Tim before. Bryan, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us about your background, and then we can dive into the various strategies that we've got in place for the go-to-market.
Thanks, Chad. Yeah, I appreciate being here. My background has been primarily in startups, helping organizations grow from zero to 20 or $30 million. This is my fourth startup here over the last 25 years. Started back in the early 2000s, actually starting Yellow Page organizations around the country and building those up. My most recent organization I was a part of, we started with an organization that did about $1 million in revenue. Grew that to about $20 million in revenue over a couple of years. And Chad has set some pretty hefty revenue targets here at VITREUS, and we look forward to obtaining those goals again.
Yeah, just like everything we do at VITREUS, everything is lofty, everything is huge goal. And so we're shooting for very deep 9-figure type revenue numbers, and not through transaction-based revenue. We're looking to develop recurring revenue bases that are in the 9 figures that are recurring, as we call it. So that is a lofty goal, obviously, and having a very calculated and very focused approach to getting our product to market is going to be really important. I want to spend some time first identifying our market in terms of the registered investment advisor market. We all know that we're also targeting the energy space as well, but I want to spend most of today focusing on the registered investment advisor market because that's what we're going to be targeting first. So Bryan, could you bring some insight and clarity around what that market looks like, what all the volume opportunities look like, and we can go from there.
Yeah, we know today there's just under 15,000 wealth management firms registered with the SEC. We also know, based upon Chad's industry knowledge being at Collaborative Wealth, that there are billions today spent on securing and making sure that that data that they maintain is compliant. With that in mind, very excited about what Tim and his team have architected. We think we have a product to address that market very quickly. Looking forward to demoing that and showing behind the covers what that looks like. I've had an opportunity to glimpse some of that recently, and it's exciting. Right now, we have between 3 and 4% of that market is what we hope to obtain in the first year. They're lofty goals, but I think obtainable. I think when we go through the sales plan on how we're going to get to there, I think everybody will probably be in agreement that we got a good plan for going forward and attaining those goals.
I want to unpack this a little bit. We've got 2 channels of collaborative digital that are relevant here. We've got one channel, which is this Web3 cryptocurrency channel where most of our community is going to be concerned with. But I also want to marry that with this traditional software fintech part of the business as well, because that supports many of the various functions of the token VTRS also. So today I'm going to try to position myself as a liaison between the community and the two of you, even though we are all one team, I want to sort of represent the community and talk with the two of you today in terms of why do I care? Why is the way we are going to get to market and create productivity, why is that important to the VTRS holder? Again, remember, we've got a program called VITREUS Incentives Program, which is what we call VIP. And that's directly tied to Collaborative Digital Innovations, the software company, as we call it. So all of the gross revenue that's generated off of Collaborative Digital Innovations, all of that gross revenue translates into participation for anybody that's staked on the VTRS token side as well, to the tune of 3% of gross revenue. So as we've talked about in the community, anybody that stakes to these vNode apparatuses, these appliances that we've created and marketed pretty aggressively, they'll also have the opportunity to participate in that VIP program through a commitment of 12 months. And by doing that, by committing to that 12-month period, by stabilizing the network and stabilizing the token, we're going to pay them for that. And we're going to pay them through royalties as gross revenue participation on that fintech side. So that's why this is important. And as the community listens to our talk today, they're going to extrapolate what those numbers mean to them. I'm sure many of them are very analytical. So they like to get into the weeds and they like to understand these numbers in terms of what it can produce for their active participating income. So
by the end of this broadcast, Chad, you'll be wanting to buy VITREUS Essentials, no problem.
Absolutely. Let's start there, Tim. Essentials is what? This is our portal that we custom create for our user, for our organizational user, right? Yeah. That's their view into all of their data. And we've simplified our messaging quite a bit in the last 6 or 7 months, where initially it was so complex and really hard to understand what we're here to do. And we simplified that in terms of 3 things. One being we store data and we store documents. And 2, we help organizations manage their data. And 3, give them mechanisms to interact with their data through artificial intelligence. But that's the simplification of what we're trying to do. But how do we do that? We do it through Essentials. Tim, can you tell us a little bit about Essentials and how we're positioning that?
Yeah, absolutely. Essentials is our flagship product that we've tailored, made this year for the wealth management platform. What's exciting about this is we are marrying the Web3 side with the traditional business side by essentially creating this distributed application, which is VITREUS Essentials. And to your point, Chad, what we're doing is we're able to onboard a wealth management company. And Bryan mentioned earlier that there's about 15,000 of these organizations registered with the SEC. About 66% of them are the size of Collaborative Wealth. So we know that our defined market and our target markets need this, and it will be very instrumental for compliance assurance and just the cost prohibitive nature of compliance. So if I am a part of Collaborative Wealth, or if I'm a chief compliance officer, I'm very concerned not only about my data and how I interact with it, but it's very complex. I've got my data spread across multiple systems. I need to be able to evaluate my communications and ensure that we're following the regulatory aspects of following up with our clients and whatnot. And so what this is going to do is this is going to take all of that data in one very elegant interface and create essentially a control center. And Bryan, you and I have worked together for about how many years now? About 12 now, roughly?
At least.
Yeah. Tim brought Bryan in, so
yeah.
I don't even know if the community knew that.
Yeah. So for us, it's taking this wonderfully transformative technology and this very large ecosystem in the Web3 world and essentially democratizing it or showing traditional businesses what this can do. And it's a combination of a lot of complex technologies, but it's very easy to interact with. And it really not just decouples or uncomplicates technology, but also the operations of ensuring that all of those very compliant aspect or topics can be reviewed and looked at by a human, and that's really a very important go-to-market strategy for what we're building. I just saw today that the SEC in 4 days is enforcing that any company that they have purview to, if they have a cybersecurity breach and they're publicly traded, they have to disclose that. So things are going to keep getting more and more complicated as we go, and these efficiencies will be very easily displayed by Bryan. So Bryan, you and I have talked about this many times. You're excited about VITREUS Essentials because you have some strong use cases to talk to these folks about. So I mean, the technology is there, and we've definitely spent a lot of time building and telling the community what we're building. But this message that we want to get across today is how are we actually communicating that in a go-to-market strategy, and want people to get, or businesses to get excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start to paint the timeline picture, because I think that's important. We're running a lot of things right now, right, in parallel to each other.
Yep.
We're building 7 or 8 different products at the moment, all in parallel to each other. We've got them all running on the same timeline. But we've got another component that we're going to get ready to layer on top of all of that, is getting ready to take it to market.
Correct.
So beginning in September, and something we need to be very aware of is our lead time to lead creation, to lead conversion, to lead harvesting, and to lead implementation. And that entire process can take as long as 12 to 18 months in your normal legacy systems. And we're wanting to compress that down into about a 3-month full adoption process. And so Tim or Bryan, either one of you, can you help us understand where we start in September to where we begin generating revenue in expected January?
Yeah, and I'll start, Bryan, then you take over, because really what we're doing as we build this is we're going to enable the go-to-market strategy by having functional demonstrations available to show folks, right? Because that's going to be really important to be able to articulate effectively in a sales cycle of what this system is capable of. And as you said earlier, Chad, it's a big vision. We're building a lot of things. And this system needs to be able to be shown in a very simple way that, this compliance issue is not going to go away. It's going to get more complex. So what we're doing on the technical side is we're going to make sure that these demo environments, these demonstration environments, are in Bryan's hands. And then as he starts his market analysis aspects, which he'll get into that in a second, he's not only has the proper messaging, he's got the proper demonstration environments, and he's got the proper tools to be able to go and do that, but he can also build that out over time and adjust as necessary as he gets feedback from the folks that he's talking to.
Yeah, Bryan, can you spend a little bit of time on the sales cycle, beginning to end? Let's assume we start in middle of September to having our first dozen customers onboarded by the end of January type thing.
Yeah, so it's not often I get to talk and share about what we do behind the scenes in the sales process itself. Usually you're involved in it. I'll probably put my wife to sleep, so I'm glad. Hopefully we can keep everybody up here as we talk through this, but I appreciate the opportunity to do it. It obviously gets me excited. We're going to outsource the initial piece of this to third-party companies that have already pre-built and are experts at the prospecting phase for us. That'll allow us to ramp up quickly in September, and that it'll allow us to accomplish a couple goals. The first is just creating a general database. We're talking multiple verticals here, energy and RIAs. We know in wealth management market, we know there's roughly 15,000 potential prospects out there. We got to create a database, and that database containing potential opportunity leads in there via CIOs, CTOs, director of ITs, the potential buyers of these types of services. From there, we have to hire and train sales reps. From a hiring of training sales reps, we have to create a CRM to manage all that data, to manage those leads themselves, and create an entire sales process of qualifying those prospects into actual leads into potential customers themselves. The beauty to outsourcing it initially is we're going to already have a CRM created. A sales process we'll be able to develop with them over time. They have hired and trained sales reps ready to hit the phone, send out emails, make that initial contact on our behalf. They will be handing over that process to us at the demo or the first meeting stage, where I and my team will take over that first meeting in terms of, doing the further qualification. Is there a budget potentially there? Demoing the actual product themselves and going through the contractual stage and even into the implementation stage. We'll take over from there. But we're going to get a huge head start by outsourcing it initially through the third parties that I've used in the past, and I've been very successful at implementing that. And so I think right out of the gate in September, we're not going to begin September when the product releases, hiring, training, and creating databases. We can actually begin in September making phone calls and begin setting meetings to do demos of those products, shortening that sales cycle in terms of development. I do think long term, I've talked to Chad about this, we'd bring that in-house, but I think initially to get us going quickly, outsourcing that is a great model. Furthermore, we can throw enough money at things to drive sales to anything. But I think what we've done is we've established a very fiscally responsible way of doing it. A very economical way of hiring those initial 3-4 inside salespeople, creating a process of doing that, and once again getting to our sales goals and our sales goals by the end of the year, the initial 2024.
And outsourcing that is a huge advantage as far as we're not spending time or our time, energy, and very valuable resources building out a sales tech stack. That's not it doesn't do anything for us right now. Outsourcing this, to Bryan's point, gets us access to this technology in a 6 to 8 week time period. So Chad, to your point, starting in September, right, where we really start getting that messaging, the demo, and those use cases in the hands of our outsourced demand generation partner. And then when they're out there calling omni-channel touch points, that information is coming back to Bryan, and he can see the effectiveness of what those things are doing. So we're already ahead of the game from the perspective of, we know in September we're going to start using these partners, and they are experts at this, and that's not something that we necessarily need to build right now.
Yeah, and if I can add, it's an incredible competitive advantage with me being in our target market.
Yeah,
this is my baby. This is 17 years old. I know how to be approached, or I know how I want to be approached by outside vendors. I know, this white glove type service that is very attractive to me. So the way that we position this ultimately for people like me is going to be really important. So I'm highly intimidated by long drawn out processes. If you didn't already know, I like things to happen very fast.
You're familiar with the speed of Chad, my friend. We are very familiar with that.
But, my industry is like that too. Even the older crowd, which is the majority of our market, our average age of our target market is 63 years old. They're almost on the verge of retirement as well. And just like I targeted that market for acquisition opportunities through helping them get out into retirement and taking over their client base, we're going to help them transition over to a digital type environment, which is very intimidating for all of them. And we're going to have to bring a white glove level of service in order to help them facilitate that transition, or it just won't happen. So our approach and our team and how we sit down and we map out exactly how we're going to accomplish this in multiple phases is going to be really important for our ultimate adoption rate. Yeah. So again, incredible competitive advantage just already being in the market.
Yeah, I just want to, if I would say, and this goes right back to where you were earlier, Chad, the piece that I think is going to be most important to this crowd is the monthly recurring revenue element that we're going after.
Absolutely.
It is. There's been a seismic shift. We've all seen it, probably living in this country for the last couple decades or so. This shift from a one-time cost of either buying Microsoft license to Microsoft monthly, whatever it may be, everything's become a subscription-based model, right?
Oh yeah.
The beauty to this subscription-based model we're going to create to those listening today is we're going to create a subscription base that's going to grow every month as we add customers, and it's going to add to that annuity, that revenue return back to the customers, ultimately that own the coin itself. So it's the model itself is brilliant. I think we got a great roadmap. The market's set up perfectly for us. Very,
Bryan, I get chills when you say that, by the way.
Yeah,
I get chills on goosebumps, my goosebumps, but it's important because of the way that this crypto space, and I've got a good feel for our community and what their history has looked like in the form of how they earn income off of their investments. It's been very different in the past. It's been through this transaction type structure where it's volume based, where buyers and sellers transacting on a token are what generate a tax that goes to ultimately fund their income as holders. And we just went through a pretty strong bear market where that volume fell to virtually nothing.
Yep.
And in effect, their income fell to virtually nothing alongside that. So, and I preach this, that this income model is crypto proof, meaning it doesn't matter if the crypto markets are healthy. It doesn't matter if they're not healthy, because our business that's generating this revenue over to the holder is crypto proof, right? That's operating. They're tied in. We're making them as sticky as possible. Yep. We've spent 3 to 6 months migrating all of their data over to our platform. Abandoning that to get away from paying subscriptions is a nightmare to think about also. And that's what we call stickiness. And the stickier that we can make this, the more stable that income base is, which means the stabler the income is to the VTRS holder as well. So really important concept there, but recurring revenue versus transaction based is a really important consideration in understanding how we're going to position the business. Yep.
Yeah, and they're multi-year contracts as well, right? So as you build that up, it's a waterfall effect that leads into the term year over year. So you're not starting over every year by having to go out and buy into new ideas with new clients. But we're not done building either, Chad. We have some very significant offerings coming in 2024 with Acquiesce, Emporium, and your baby Advisor Retire, which I predicted you would say would be the #1 revenue seller at an AMA back in March. And so, these projections that we are talking about now are based on the MVP, or the minimal viable product, of what we're going to take to market in 2024. But the other offerings will add to our ability to stack even more monthly revenue as we get those developed next year.
Yeah, and I'm not going to get into the details on the forecast, the revenue forecast, the 5-year numbers, things like that. We're in the 9-figure range,
yes,
and that's only built off of our MVP. Correct. It doesn't take into account the new sector of energy that we haven't added that into our modeling yet. We haven't added in all of our new various other products that'll be generating revenue in. So this has some really, really serious potential. One of the first days that I talked to the community, I said, this is a $1 billion company. And absolutely. Actually, the first time I talked to Tim, he goes, no, it's not. It's a $2 billion company.
$2 billion, that's what I said. Yeah.
But I think you're off too. I think this is even bigger than a $2 billion company.
I think we're talking 4. I think we are. Solving compliance for the world is hard. Solving compliance,
absolutely.
Is the pressure on me keeps building. Huh? The pressure on me keeps building. Keep it up, guys.
Hey,
we're gonna here in a minute.
No, we had a really good meeting, and I'm gonna go on a tangent here because I know the community is gonna like to hear this. We had a really good meeting with one of our energy company potential partners. I can't divulge who it is. They told me it's not time to do that yet, but an excellent conversation that is starting to paint the picture of how we can legitimately change the energy space too. Yeah. And those aren't little tickets. REAs, registered investment advisors, my business, those are little tickets. Those are the $50,000 to $100,000 tickets. Right. And with high volume, that can pay the bills, that can get the revenue going, that can get us our foot in the door with, big capital. The energy, those are monster tickets. Yeah. Those are $20 and $30 million type tickets.
Easily.
And And if we can get our foot into the door with those large energy companies like Avangrid and Bryan, those companies all talk to each other. It's a very tight circle. They all know each other. They're all talking to each other at all points, and they want to know the best and latest, greatest thing. And this could easily catch fire on that side too. Sorry, I go on a tangent.
No. I want to add to that, Chad, because what I liked about our conversation with him this morning is he said, and keep in mind, he's a security expert, and he said compliance is universal across all highly regulated industries. And then he was even asking some cross-sector, questions around how is finance looking at this? What are they facing, right? And the core aspect of our offering, our solution, is regulatory compliance assurance. It's just a universal value add that we have. And Bryan and I talk about this all the time. It's where we have done this together 10 years, and we've seen every manner of cloud managed service.
Mm-hmm.
Bryan, what haven't we done? And to your point, Chad, the last big deal that I was involved in at my consulting days was about a $30 million deal at an energy company. And it was just infrastructure, just basic closet switch infrastructure, not even hitting the core market. So just really excited about our ability to diversify with the wealth management folks, build that up while we get, the bigger sectors like energy and the subsequent banking sectors going as well next year. It's really exciting.
So to go back to the REA, I'm jumping around, I know that, but another couple things that I want to point out is how we're going to build awareness around what we're doing. We'll have a pretty aggressive traditional marketing effort that touches all the various channels. I'm not going to announce it yet. We've got a new CMO coming on to handle the oversight of all of our marketing for the traditional side. When I say traditional, I mean Collaborative Digital Innovations, the software company. That is the traditional company. Fintech, software, that's your normal business. The Web3 is a subsidiary of that business called Collaborative Digital Labs, and that's the blockchain and token. But the traditional side is what I'm referring to most here. So when I'm thinking about generating awareness outside of a traditional marketing campaign that touches all channels, again, a competitive advantage is me being in the space. I'm constantly being invited to speak at conferences and events where I'll have an opportunity to be on stage and speak to a lot of these people who are ultimately our target market. And I can speak to something that is kind of trending at the moment, which is digitization, and creating this new digital era environment for something that's super archaic in my industry. And people stand in the back of the room. There'll be standing room only type of thing.
Yeah.
And if we can develop a clear message that opens up really deep level of interest, we plug them right into our sales pipeline, walk them through our normal sales process, deliver the white glove service, maximize the adoption across all of the various services. And, we're at market there. And that's just to get going. So like we've talked about in the past, we made a go at VC earlier this year, which was a pretty big challenge. There's not any money being deployed in VC right now, and especially not in ideas on paper, right?
No.
And we found out that really quick, but we did understand that we needed to pivot right back to where we were to start and position for how we can get our foot in the door for an A-series round.
That's right.
And just to give everybody some insight, we're targeting around April-ish next year. Once we can generate $1 million of revenue, VCs will take you seriously.
Yeah.
And once you can put a product in front of them and show them a demo and show them ComplyQ and how, that's a new Llama learning model. And here's what it does. It's an adaptive learning model that focuses on compliance and risk mitigation. Oh yeah, and it's patent pending. That's where people will start to get excited about the possibility of investing in our business.
It's going to be a busy 3 years for sure. Absolutely.
Absolutely. It'll be a fun 3 years. I told the community last night, I've got 5 to 7 in me on this all in type mentality.
Okay.
But that'll we'll be so far down the road, and this business will look totally different by that time. Also, businesses morph and they change and they adapt to what the markets need at that point. So, yeah, any idea or any additional ideas or comments or anything on the RIA approach, Bryan?
No, the only thing I would add to that was we did have a unique opportunity where we went back to the VC firms and had asked for what their insight was in terms of go to market for this, what they would give. I'll turn it over to you, Tim. Why don't you give some feedback about that conversation as it pertains to this?
Yeah, so we, to Chad's point, we were very fortunate to have access to some VCs and some advisors. And we asked them, we just said, what would you do if you could start over with your sales strategy, and what would you do? And without even really missing a beat, the founders said, if I could do it over again, I would go get 2 senior level sales leaders, AKA our 2 senior sales leaders, including Mr. Reinhart. And I wouldn't spend any money on integration. I wouldn't do automation. I would go and outsource a demand generation company, and I would have that company set appointments for your sales leadership, and I would just use that for the first year. And Bryan and I smiled at each other because this is what we have been planning since basically February. And it just felt good getting acknowledgement from, folks that not only are experienced in entrepreneurship, but have done it, sold businesses off, and really understand what the market is. So, we're not opposed to getting as many data points on our strategy as possible to be responsible, but still move quickly. And I'm very humbled and confident in Bryan's ability to bring that to market, because that was his strategy the entire time. So it was exciting.
Yeah, we're actually, Bryan, we're missing. Sorry to interrupt. We're missing one person on your team. Nick is going to play a really important role, and I was hoping he could make it. He's moving all week this week, so he couldn't join us. But Nick is doing this right now for other companies. He is sitting down with large corporations. He's helping them analyze where they currently stand versus what new technologies could be implemented to help them improve in various areas of their business. And he's walking them through a very tight relationship and making sure that they get that transition completed accurately and swiftly. Yeah. He's going to come on board, and he's going to oversee a lot of these sales aspects also as part of your team, Bryan, right?
Yep. Yeah, I would. You're segueing this nicely, both of you here, as we do this. I do think we planned this, but going back to another statement made by both Tim and Chad earlier, I spend every day in front of CIOs, CTOs, talking about what's important to them. I've had the opportunity to share a little bit what we're doing with several organizations as well. We jokingly in the industry have said, if you can tag any product to security or compliance, you can sell it. It's amazing how much funding the organizations open up to. You can buy a router or switch these days, and somehow if you make that router and switch important to security, it gets the money needed. I don't know if I've found a product. I mean, I know there's a lot of wonderful products out there, Splunk and Logarithm and all these great products that do what they do, but I don't know if I've seen a product that does the compliance element that we're bringing to market here. It's going to resonate. It's going to open doors, because we're not just putting some vaporware around a router or a switch and saying it does something great for your Wi-Fi. We specifically have a product and service that can address compliance issues, helping you remain compliant, identifying compliance issues before they become issues. So we have a really good talk track that's going to resonate not just with the owners of the products and the IT technologies themselves, but also with the people that own the dollars in the back end, those CFOs. When they start hearing what we can do and save them money on a compliance and a regulatory perspective, gosh, we really could be hitting the market at the right time, the right place.
Right time, right place is absolutely right. AI is huge.
Yep.
Right now. Everybody knows what it is. I even sit in front of, yesterday I was with a 90-year-old client, And we talked for 20 minutes about AI. They even know what AI is. And so this is a monster trend that is not going to go anywhere. This is the development of our world. And we're just trying to understand all the various use cases that compliance can serve, but our artificial intelligence can serve, but our compliance AI couldn't be better positioned to tap into the time, the need, and should be, a gimme.
Oh, it'll be a gimme, Chad. I look at AI and I love the awareness, but they're incredibly complicated. It's so complicated to deploy. And one of the aspects of our ability to go to market is when we do a demo and, we get a new client, we start onboarding them. This is a 30-day, 45-day onboarding process. It's not implementation. This is not, this is integration. And the difference there, and this again goes back to having you and Brenton as, in wealth management experts. You are able to tell us how you want to consume this, how we need to integrate this. And so, it's going to be very frictionless. It's going to be very lightweight, and we're not changing out massive systems either. We're integrating, we're pulling things in, we're adding value to what they're trying to do on a daily basis. So very excited, not just about what we're building, but how we're building it and how we're able to integrate that and take that from a speed to market perspective.
Very exciting things coming up. Both of you, thank you very much for joining us in today's discussion. Do you have any final thoughts before we jump off here?
Sure. I'm really excited for everybody to meet Bryan. It's getting further in the year. Being able to show everybody what we're building is great. I'm really looking forward to having further discussions with everybody around our go-to-market strategy and the business side, and how this very responsible and innovative team will continue to innovate at pace and be responsible for our actions and whatnot moving forward.
Good, Bryan?
Yeah, I would just say very excited about two things. One, being on board, but two, we got to get Nick out in front of you. I think you guys are going to love Nick and what he brings to the team. The other piece of this, and I know Chad has alluded to, it's not the right time and place for it, but what we've aligned in the energy industry and where we're going with that, it far exceeds my expectations, as well as what we're going to do in the wealth management market. So I'm very excited about hopefully in the next AMA being able to talk about what we're doing there, because that's even more exciting, I think, when we get there. So that would leave it with those two big topics there.
Excellent. Well, thank you, gentlemen. My final thought is we've got a pre-sale that is currently open. We have a 10-stage progressive pre-sale going on. We're in stage 3 currently that runs out on Saturday. We've decided to burn the entire stage 4 and open 5 back up on August 12th. So presale.vitreous.io is the website. And then join us in Discord and Telegram, and we'll have instructions on joining that pre-sale all over the place in there too. So thank you for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.